After the death of his father Wilfred, and many years after peace had come among the lands through his marriage to Dina, daughter of Flashman, Trevor built himself a warship to take trouble to the north and return with blood gold. Master boatwrights in Axmouth shaved and smoothed oak trees from the Axe Valley forests into S-shaped ribs. Strakes and beams slotted together to form the curved body and frame. In time, a ship emerged, sleek and tall, fast sliding down the launch slipway on the greased elm rollers. Boom. Kelsey. To the gods, Trevor offered a sacrifice. They painted her clinker planks bitumen black with white oak leaf embellishments, scrolls and beasts. Below decks, Trevor ordered silks and skins and woven blankets, all to be dyed the colour of deep beetroot. He imagined the opulent warfare of the Romans. Before he could set sail to make his name abroad and slay a conquering, his sailors refused to board Kelsey until she had been given eyes to guide the vessel and all of its souls over the dangerous seas. Trevor understood the custom, and he commissioned a wooden bust of his beautiful wife Dina to adorn the ship's prow. Now Dina was greatly admired. She ruled at her husband's side with a fair and just reasoning, arguing mercy against his violent inclinations. She would sit at his side in assizes and whisper a while in his ear, so that many harsh measures were tempered. For this Trevor thanked her. She taught him compassion, and his people had grown to love him the better for showing it. His love for her plunged deep as a spliced anchor warp. But there was one man who had been slighted, for he too was in love with Dina, and they had planned to marry before Wilfred struck that peaceful council with Flashman and bargained her into the pact, bringing their two families together in union. Baudat was his name. Baudat was a loyal warrior in Flashman's retinue and a skilled hunter. He had wooed Dina in her youth, and they were very much in love at the time of the pact. She had promised Baudat her heart, and then pierced it with an arrow when she broke off their marriage plans to obey her father. The kingdoms were the better for the union. The people prospered for lack of warfare over the borders. Dina's love for Trevor grew as tall as Kelsey's mast, and her heart filled with joy as the sails would fill with fresh winds. In the following years, Baudat turned his pain into a spear that he sharpened every day. He would hunt Trevor and bring pain to his heart. Baudat was so love-torn that anger became a dominant spirit ruling his heart. His plots became the more twisted in time, and after 10 years had passed, he forgot the object of his pain, Dina, and thought only of the injury against him by Trevor. He ate and slept in hatred of this man, his ruler. Baudat lived on the edge of a dark Axe Valley forest, brooding. One day he found a forest pixie foraging for acorns, and caught the tiny collar with the tip of his dagger. Such was Baudat's eye and speed for hunting. "Loose me free," said the pixie, but he was pinned by the collars to the tree. "By and by," said Baudat, "but what thee do for me?" "Ax your will, and it will tell thee," said the pixie light. "Then," said Baudat, "ik must stealen Dina from Trevor." The pixie shook his head for sorrow that he must answer, but to answer he had given his word. "Follow as I says, and thou shalt certain have Dina fro Trevor," and the pixie whispered instructions into Baudat's ear. But when released, and after the pixie had explained what he'd done to the rest of the forest nymphs, their fairy queen, Isabel, grew sad, for she knew Trevor to be a good king, bringing peace to his people, and very much in love with Dina. She determined to allow Dina to stay with Trevor's lifespan, and followed Baudat. When Trevor called throughout the land for a craftsman to sculpt a bust of Dina for Kelsey, Baudat saw his chance. He travelled to Axmouth in disguise. He braided his beard, wore an eye patch, and stooped. Trevor hired him, and Baudat set up a workshop behind the boat sheds. It happened that his grandfather had been a boat builder and taught him to use such tools. When Dina arrived for her sitting, she was surrounded by the women of the great hall. She sat on the stool that had been placed for her, whilst the women sat on the ground and decorated her feet with lavender flowers. "Rustic sit so far, carpenter?" she asked. "I wis, gracious laddie, 'tis proper," he replied. "Jees. Thou height?" she asked. "I wis, John," he said with a low bow. "John," she asked, "han me and thee meeten there now?" "Never meeten. How would we be, nice lady? I'm of no rank." "Be still," he said, and got to work. After a few hours, Dina said that she was tired and would return the next day. Baudat nodded. "But lady, shalt thou looking at this?" he asked. She came to his side and away from the retinue, giving Baudat the opportunity to prick her finger with a poisoned dart and then throw a dead adder onto the floor. As Dina swooned, he caught her in his arms one last time in her death thrall and wept. The women of the great hall screamed. Baudat pretended to crush the dead adder once they had been sure to see it. Then he ran away back to his brooding on the edge of the forest valley. His anger had extinguished the flames, but left him wretched. By the time Isabel, the fairy forest queen, arrived, it was too late to save Dina. She had to think quickly. The royal port of Axmouth was in turmoil. Trevor called for Dina's body, which his men carried to the family tomb. A thick mist descended over them, created by Isabel. It lasted for a week, and in blind confusion, all of the people of Axmouth became careful and cautious by necessity. The tomb was sealed quickly, without the usual ceremonies or observances. A year of mourning passed, and at the end of the year, Trevor declared war on all of his neighbours. After he had vented pain on local foes, he victualled Kelsey to set sail on her maiden voyage on a rampage. The ship's figurehead was dusted off in the workshop at the back of the boatyards, and the bust of Dina was hoisted up to the prows where it was fitted facing out to the waves. The fairy queen dreamed of this back in the forest. She awoke and immediately flew to Axmouth to bless the ship with her oak branches weaved in deep forest thyme. As he waved to the crowd on the harbour wall, Trevor smiled for the first time in a year. The likeness of Dina's bust brought peace and comfort to his brow. He remembered his wife's gentle mercy and tempered argument, and he decreed that as loyal warriors to her memory, they would set forth in her name to conquer with a fair and just hand. He waved to the fairy queen, and as the ship loosed its moorings and drifted out towards the mouth of the harbour, Isabel sang a fairy song and tossed her weaved oak branches up into the air, crossing Kelsey's path. The leaves brushed past the eyes of the wooden bust of Dina, and the sleeping eyes opened, blink